normative approach. So now I will hand over to Ayushi ma'am so that ma'am can start the, now it is okay.
Okay, sir, thank you so much. So before we begin for the class, can we have a quick recall of what we discussed in the last class? If you both are okay with that, Kavita ji and Shiv Kumar ji.
Ma'am, previous day we learned about validity and reliability.
Correct. And in reliability, we discussed about what all parts.
What is reliability and types of the reliability, such as split up, test, retest, parallel method.
Okay, that's nice. And in validity, we discussed about.
In the parallel method, we measure the same thing in different way. That's
correct. Making the two separate forms.
Separate.
And in yes, and validity, types of validity, we discussed about the face validity, content validity, construct validity,
validity,
differential validity as well,
and criterion validity.
Criterion validity, correct. So these were the topics we discussed in the last class. The remaining part of the module are the objectivity part and the norms. Like sir has already mentioned that we will be discussing the normative part today, and later on sir will be discussing the predictive norms too. So shall we begin with the class? Just allow me to share my screen and let me know once it is visible to all of you.
Yeah, you can start now.
Sure, sir. Is the screen visible?
It is visible.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So as discussed, like we would be discussing today about the objectivity part. So what exactly the word objective means? That's what actually Kavita ji we were discussing abhi recently, right? The objective and subjective. So what does it mean, objective and what is subjective?
May too specific to the subject, like to be to the point, to be specific or measurable.
It is subjective or objective?
It is objective, madam, like measurable, which is to the point, specific. You can say like that.
And what is subjective? Isn't it measurable?
It can also measurable, but the subjective is more. That there are so much diversity is there. The objective is more into specific or narrow down. You can say like that. It's my understanding. It can be varies.
Okay. Anything from your end, Kavita ji?
Ma'am, subjective means participant experience. It is very diverse in nature, and subjective is another way we measure the same things but more concrete and more accurate.
Okay. So, if you are supposed to use a measure, so what would you choose? Like to measure, for example, to measure personality. So, what would you be opting for? An objective way of measuring, or any of the psychological attribute? What would you be choosing? An objective measurement or a subjective measuring tool?
Subjective.
Okay. What about you, Shiv Kumar ji?
Ma'am, I didn't get your question. Please, can you repeat? Sorry for that.
It's all right. I am just asking if you are supposed to measure certain psychological attribute, so what would you be choosing? An objective tool or a subjective tool?
It depends on content actually. Sometimes we use qualitative analysis. We use some subjective tool, maybe like in-depth interviews. But if it is depend on the variables also, like generally I choose the tools which are most probably good in measurement, like the different level of scales, maybe like nominal scale or interval scale like that. So I use tools, psychological tools which are measurable, which are more into objective.
Yeah. So objective. So basically what happens, objectivity stands out as a global aspect or the universality. That means which is equal for everyone, whether you are measuring it here or there. Like if you are keeping it with the, like for example, if I would say 2 plus 2 is equals to 4 for you, for me, for everyone out there. But if like the day before yesterday, I asked you about your favorite color. You said that it is like gray. So it is something called a subjective orientation towards your favorite color. So it cannot be same. So when we go for like for measuring of psychological attributes, we usually opt for an objective instrument. Why? Because it is a standardized tool. I hope you all have studied throughout this that the standardized tool means which has the reliability, validity, norms, right? And so that's why we are using, that's what we are exactly studying today. So when we do have this objectivity or the objective tools, because they are standardized in nature, and once you get the standardization, it actually brings the benchmark, or it actually brings out the validity of the instrument. It is stands out like it's reliable, it is more trustable. Okay, but what happens into the subjective tools? Usually, subjectivity brings on the biasness. Like, for example, I might, like, let's take an example of a projective test of psychology, personality का projective test could be Rorschaching plot or TAT or word association, any of the tests. Let me take an example of are you all aware of thematic apperception test? What it is all about? TAT by Murray,
Yes,
given
ma'am,
by
we are
Murray.
aware of that. We are
Yes.
aware of that.
So in
It is one
TAT,
of the
what
projective tests.
right? So what happens? We are supposed to present a story out of that the picture given to you. So what happens when you interpret it in your way and then it is given to the researcher? I might give certain points to that. The other researcher might give it or might see it in a different way. So when the subjectivity arose, whenever the subjectivity is into the role play, the result would deviate, right? For you, for a one researcher, it could be one of the need identified. Like for example, one has identified the need of succurrence, the other might have identified the need of power. One has identified the need of affiliation, the other might have identified the need for the achievement. There are 24 needs and crises, and out of that, any of us could have identified different needs. So when interpretation is so different, how could we get one solution? Henceforth, we stick to an objective measurement tool. Henceforth, a tool which is standardized in nature, having the reliability, validity, and the norms. Exactly what does it mean, the objectivity? It is a test means the degree to which equally competent users get the same results in scoring, right? We are getting the same results throughout. There is no biasness involved. For everyone, it is same. So when the things are equal, when the things are equate, we bring the equality. There is no such biasness. Like that's how we say that there should be uh, Like in MCQ questions, multiple choice questions, if only one answer is correct, that is an objective type paper. So whosoever choose it, you if that question is stands for 2 marks, so whosoever opted for the correct option would be getting the full 2 marks. But what happens when we have the subjective answer? I think it usually ends up like if someone has written 5 lines, some might have written 10 lines, so the marks varies on that part. Similarly, the subjectivity talks about. Then later on, we would discuss about how this, what are the aspects of objectivity sense. So it has basically two objects, like the two aspects. One is like objectivity of the items. So items here stands for the statements in a questionnaire. So it implies that the item should be simple and we should be able to interpret them easily or clearly. So for example, like if you remember in our last class when I showed you the items, let me get back to those items. Like again, I am giving you an example of this HSPQ questionnaire only. For example, let's look at the first item. I enjoy being in large groups of people. So the way Shiv Kumarji would interpret this would be the same of mine as well, would be the same as of Kavita ji as well, right? Is there any sort of diligence between these interpretation? Like Shiv Kumarji, what would you be interpreting from this item one?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Item one, I enjoy being in a large groups of people, extroversion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So what would
what
be you
you want to
interpreting
answer?
from?
Yeah, it's like the people, those who are enjoying, like they are most probably extroversion. They are outgoing. They are enjoyable, most probably. People,
But
those who go to outside and sharing experiences, they are outgoing. They are most probably enjoyable.
okay, so that's what you interpreted. What is your interpretation, Kavita ji?
Ma'am, the people who are uh, 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 open to all people, that people, I feel that they are extroverts are.
So similar kind of interpretation you both give. That's the beauty of an objective item, right? Which is very easy to interpret, which is very easy to understand what exactly they are asking. But if we take an example of any of the subjective item, then it would be difficult for both of us or any of us to interpret what exactly it means, right? So that's what objectivity of items. The next part is objectivity of scoring. So again, when we are scoring, there should be same pattern of scoring to be followed. Like if you are giving someone points 2 and if I am giving it a point 3, then the scoring would be fluctuate and you would be saying it who is high and who is low. So exactly objectivity in scoring helps us to give one exact solution. So I hope this is clear to both of you what exactly the objectivity means. Objectivity, one is for the item and one is for the part of scoring. So this is the part of objectivity. Now the part comes for the norms, which is actually what we bring out into this. So what does norm means to you? NORM. What does that mean? What does this word mean to you? Please don't go by the definitions written over the screen. Give it by yourself. What does norm means to you? NORM.
Ma'am, norm means I understand there are some rules or regulation.
Okay, rules and regulations. Anything from your end, Shiv Kumarji?
Yes, ma'am. There is a norms. Generally, we have in the society we have a norms like cultural norms. Like the same way we have also norms for the test. Like certain how the test was constructed, it is based on certain norms actually. So in this context, the meaning is quite different, but the same way we can interpret that, like cultural norms, group norms, how the test was constructed. So that can we say that.
Okay. So when we talk about the norms, as you both have mentioned, this is about the related to the rules, regulation, or what exactly how the protocol to be followed. The same pattern we get norms in our psychological testings and tools. We call it as a standardized scores. We call it standardized scores. So there are certain types of norms we use the grade norms, we use age norms. So the norms are being divided in certain these parts, which are like based on the person. Like let me give you an example of recently we got the NEET results out, and there are plenty of students who got all India rank 1, right? I guess there are more than 50 or 60 students so who get more than like having first rank. So how is it possible? How do you think? How is it possible?
Ma'am, it is percentile. I think they give based on the percentile norms actually. What I understand,
Okay,
percentile based on the percentile category. So percentile is also one kind of norms they follow. I think.
okay. And what do you think, Kavita ji? Anything from your end?
Um, uh, this is also relative position among the student.
Huh? But don't you think how come so many of students getting the first rank? So the next rank would be the second rank. Is it? Does it happen? Like because the rank is being shared between so many of people. If the podium would be provided, how could you ask the more than 60 students to stand on the first rank podium? Don't you think it's so difficult? So
Yes,
they do have that certain. See what happens when we have the shared ranks. If you have gone through the Spearman rank order correlation row, remember you both have done this Spearman rank order correlation.
no,
It's a non-parametric way of measurement, part of correlation. Have you studied about it?
Yes,
yes,
madam. We have studied.
yes, ma'am.
Right. So what we used to do in that when we got the shared ranks. Any
We
of you have any?
tie up the students, ma'am.
Correct. Then when we used to have the tied ranks, then the next to next rank would be given to the other coming up students.
Yes,
Right? So
yes,
in
yes.
this pattern also, so this is how the norms are being decided. So what it is doing, it is actually picking up the students and putting them on the same platform. Usually when we used to have in our schools or colleges, we used to have the percentage system or that CGPA, cumulative grade points. Out of 10, or some universities have out of, like my university used to give the CGPA points out of 6. So if somebody is getting the CGPA of 5.96, would be awarded with a grade O. O stands for outstanding. Or
House.
sometimes, yeah, and then someone have the grade A plus, B plus. If you remember in your school days, I guess so you also used to get these, or even in the colleges, some universities offer today as well. And even in the foreign universities, the CGPA cumulative grade points are being followed. So what exactly it is doing? We are trying to put two different individuals on the same platform by providing with them an equating norms, because you are studying something different. Like that's how we used to do na, ki arts students of humanities stream topped in this, science stream students topped in this. Like how can you compare the 96% science stream topper to a 96% person who has achieved in humanities? Can you compare these two? Both are getting the same percentage, both are getting the 96 percentage, but the field they are opting is so totally different. But again, they are treated as that who have topped in the class, because what we are doing, we are putting them all into the one place, different individuals. Similar point is norming helps us in the psychological test. It provides us the standardized tool, a standardized measure, which involves the Z scores, which involves the T score, the stenine, the sten, then we comes the percentile, we have the percentage as well. So like this. So according to Thorndike, and this is actually a very good definition, norms constitute frames of references for the interpretation of test scores. So norms are exactly, I would be saying, are the reference points. In our upcoming modules, upcoming classes, we will be studying the criterion based test and the reference based and norms reference test, where we usually have the division. That would be coming in the upcoming classes. But for now, let's stick to this. How it helps us? It helps us to put it as a reference. Like we are supposed, this is one of the point to which we are supposed to compare ourselves. If somebody has achieved like between 30 to 35 plus score, we would be calling it into the mediocre or the middle. If someone is scored above 50, that would be having the high, or on the similar grade points, something sort of. So I have one question, only one question. I have a doubt. Let me know. Norms are made upon on the certain sample population, or are common for everyone? Like there, the norms are specific to certain sample population, or is common for everyone?
Ma'am, common for
Specific to
everyone.
certain population, specific to certain population, madam. When it comes to preparing psychological test, we follow certain kind of populations, and based on that we make norms.
Okay, so both of you gave the two different answers. Who is correct?
You should.
No, I to ask you a doubt. Acha, chalo, for example, let's not talk about the psychological test. Do you follow traffic rules? Like
Yes, ma'am.
you drive?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
red light means stop for everyone throughout the country, or it's different.
Throughout the country, ma'am, same.
So Shiv Kumar ji, what is your take on this? We have the same rule for everyone.
Yeah, that is same rules, ma'am. That is I agree.
Then how come your answer could be correct? Defend it.
Like my answer is based on the way that, like, if I look at the psychological test, certain kind of population, how the test was prepared based on the, we are made certain, suppose take an example of self concept prepared by A.K. Saraswati. It's a tools, widely used tools. So that test was prepared specific population, like even though they are taking a children, but the specific area and the demography and that aspect they prepared. So the scoring, I am talking about the norms based on the scoring pattern. That's what I'm saying, madam. Actually, that is what my content is. I'm not
Okay.
talking about the universal norms. Like, of course, red light and the green light traffic is same for America and even this is, which is universal, or some other aspect also universal. But when specific population, when the test was prepared, there is a certain kind of scoring norms based on the population. That's what my answer actually.
So yes, that's correct. Actually, both of you are correct on the same aspect. Like you have mentioned that for the psychological test, and the other have mentioned about the universal aspect. Both of you are correct. So yes, when we construct a psychological test, we do construct it for the certain specific population. Like for example, if let's talk about the SPM, standard progressive matrices. Okay, I hope you are aware of the standard progressive matrices. Who constructed the standard progressive matrices? This is a test of intelligence.
Uh,
Quickly.
Raven progresses, Raven
J.C. Revan. Correct.
progressive
So
matrices.
J.C. Revan constructed this SPM or the RPM. So that it is for the which age group? So it is being constructed till the 15 years of age or more than that, even if that. So the norms are specific to age are being provided. So you cannot, like, if certain, like, if I would be taking any creativity test which is created for, or let's take the Vineland social maturity scale, VSMS. You have studied about this Vineland social maturity scale?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's actually a very good scale for the measurement of the social maturity in the purpose of housing. So what exactly it happens? So the age groups are being provided first. So you can measure it to that certain. So the reference point. Even it happens when we are into the, like, Kavita ji, you are into the nursing field. So you do have seen the pediatrician, right? So you might have seen how the pediatricians work with, like, the child development. Like, by this age the child must do these things, and if the child is not able to do so, then we would be like whether there is certain delay or not, right, Kavita ji? Am I right in this
Yes, ma'am.
aspect?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
do, sir. So we have certain age related specific criteria. So that's what, yeah. So it is specific to the population or to the sample. Is it correct? Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So for the purpose of interpretation of the significance of test scores, we need an actually a adequate, appropriate, and stable standard reference. So similarly, like if we have made a reference point that whosoever is achieving more than 90% would be given A grade. I remember because uh, uh, there was certain sort of semester scheme came into the role play, and now right now the new education policy also talks about the same, the grade points. So they have the A1, A2, B1, B2. So they have categorized it on the basis of, like, whosoever is achieving the 90 to 100 ka score would be given A1 grade. The only problem is what I can see so far is the student who is achieving 99 score and the student who is achieving 91 score are put on the same platform. Both are getting the A1 grade. Now, because this system was brought into the place so that the rate of suicides can be decreased, because there the competition is so high. Everyone wants to be like, I should be the top, I should be the one in the top list. So if the student is getting the 91 and the other is getting the 99, still they are provided with the A1 rank. So you can't be able to say, no, who is scored high. Anything you want to say, Kavita ji, on this?
Yes, ma'am. I want to say that how do you standard the reference? Norms refer the reference. How can you set up the reference of the score?
See, these are actually based on the average scores. For example, let's take a very random example. You are in a class of students, 50 students, and mostly all the students have scored around 30-35 out of 50. So you can assume that majority of population would be achieving, if 30-35 per score, only 1-2 students are achieving more than that, so would be into a topper line, and the below would be into the low scorers. So you can assume now what exactly the strength of your class is, like how much they are scoring. So you can easily interpret that the majority of population is scoring above 50%. So that means if 50%, if you are coming above the average, then you are a very good student. Does it doesn't happen. Like, this is the same pattern we follow while giving the ranks for the UPSC exams. Oh, any of the entrance examination, this is the same pattern we follow. Okay, that's how we actually say na ki, if you have ever noticed that in the UPSC examination, where if a person is getting a score, or even in the NET examination, let's take NET is a national eligibility test. Even if the JRF has been awarded to the student who has scored 65%, can you imagine the 65% is a very good percentage? Right now, when we are in our masters also, we are scoring more than 90%, and in NET examination, if you are scoring 65%, you are being awarded with the JRF. So how is it possible? Yes, Kavita ji, you wanted to say something?
Once when the time set one reference point, but when the after 10 years the same reference
Changes.
is
Like changes because the population change. Like if I would say in initial time 75% was used to be talked about as a distinction marks, right? You used to call it as if somebody has scored
ye-
75% has with
yes
this
ma'am.
distinction. And right
Yes ma'am.
now, even if you have scored 95%, that doesn't mean that does not hold any value. Even if now the students in the first and second class are scoring 99 and 100% scores, isn't it? And if I would have said, I might not have got very good marks in my first class. So am I the one who is not so doing good in academics? So yes, reference changes as per the population. Like in the initial time we discussed, na, it depends on the population. It depends on the what kind of nature of the sample or the population. So henceforth, so norms are formed on the basis of the averages, and we have certain areas like purposes. The dual purposes it is following, like how the individual is standing, like if it is giving you your position, and the other part is like comparing it to others, ki how good you are, how bad you are. So norms help us to give two different things. One is your position, and the other is your comparison. Then next part to be discussed in this norms would be how the like because uh, I just talk because this was something a small part left of. Later on, the sir would be taking up the predictive norms and the part of the remaining part. I would be just checking out with this how usability of the test the parts. These are certain small characters and we need to discuss. First is like on certain aspect, a test could be called a good psychological test. First is its ease of administration, like it should be easy to administer. Like if any of us is not even able to understand what exactly it is trying to administer, and the procedure is so difficult for us to hold upon, then it would get very difficult, and then that tool won't be lose its usability. You won't be going for that tool now. It's so difficult to use. The other part is ease of scoring. Sometimes, if you have ever administered, if you have ever gone through MMPI, have you ever checked it out? Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory.
Just once we look into that, madam, it is a very lot of good, number of items, and we
How many
didn't
items?
administer this.
How many
It's
items?
around more than 500 something, 560
Yes.
something like.
Yes, five,
Yes,
six,
ma'am.
seven items. It has this much of items. Hathway and McKinley has constructed this MMPI tool. But see, its administration is so difficult for any of us to think about. Now the scoring is available, the machine scoring is available. Those who actually, the clinical psychologists who administer MMPI, they do have the machine scoring for that because hand scoring is not preferable anymore. So it becomes so difficult for us when and the scoring is so difficult. Again, you won't be preferring it. And what we want our test to be very of having the utility. Until unless our product is of having utility, it won't be get by. Very simple management rule, it says. Until it's being provided with any sort of demand, it won't get its supply. Right? So we need to follow that. Its scoring should be quite easy. The other part is the ease of interpretation.
Ma'am, I
Again,
have
objective.
sorry for
Uh,
interrupting. Point I would like to mention here. Although it is a very big one and it is one of the popular tests actually. It's MMPI 2 revised. It is one of
yes.
the popular tests, and although the items are big, but it is very popular to administer the psychopathology.
Yes, it is. But it is not a diagnostic tool.
But the dimension is going to measure the 10 aspect of psychopathology, no? Like, that's what
But
I'm telling. Just
even if MM, but MMPI is not single-handedly treated, and neither it is like advisable for any person to administer into single setting. If you are aware of it, it is administered usually into two settings, like half the question in the first sentence and the other half in the second setting.
Okay, ma'am. I'm not aware of that, but yes, just I'm telling the adding to your point.
Yeah, yeah. So again, but see, the applicability is very good. The tool is giving you that psychasthenia, the deviation part, everything, masculinity, femininity. Even it has the lie scale to forward backward scale. It has validity scales too. So it's too good. But the usability, the utility. For any of us to use it, it's quite to think again. So that's what I was saying. The next thing is for a tool to be good is to be of the economic value, the time value, and the interesting. Like it should be as not to get into the board that the other person is like, oh, what to do, how it's so getting so lengthy, it's so boring. So again, that would be one of the characteristics that might reduce or its utility. So yes, that was all from my end for the class today. Now I hand over this class to Sir. Sir,
Ma'am,
you
I have
may
one
proceed.
question for you,
Huh.
ma'am.
Yes, please.
It's a like related to your qualification. Are you clinical specialization? Are you specialized in clinical psychology in master?
Uh, uh, Shiv Kumarji, I would prefer answering to this question after the class, if you don't mind, because in between the class, it's not advisable. Because when we are into the online streaming, I don't prefer revealing
Okay,
my
okay,
personal
okay.
details.
Just because you
Don't.
are very the answer na MMPA. That's what I just guessed that you are from clinical psychology background. That's what my point.
Yes. If you have any question from the class, you may put into the class right now. Otherwise, I hand over this class to Sir. Farah, is Sir available?
Yes, ma'am. Sir, are you there? Hello, sir.
So by the time Sir join us, Farah, just give him a call so that he would be like joining us in time. By the time Sir join us, Kavita ji and Shiv Kumar ji, do you have any doubt related to so far whatever we have discussed? Please let's stick to what the curriculum talks about. So any of the doubt?
Ma'am, previous day we learned a split up method.
Yes.
We in our master's class we established reliability through split up. Then we multiply by into 2. It is needed or it is actual method or only split up we take in R only.
See, in split half method, we usually use the Spearman-Brown formula, which stands for 2Rn divided by n into n plus 1. This is actually statistical to me because I remember all these formulas. So what exactly happens? We are actually calculating the reliability of the half part of the scale and replicating it to the other half of the scale. So yes, that's what happens in the split half too. So it says 2Rn divided by, it's the formula name is Spearman-Brown formula. You might have come across certain questions like this, that if a reliability of a questionnaire is half time of the, like it's increased by 2 times, then what if the length has been increased? So what would be the reliability? You might have come across these kinds of question in any of the entrance examinations, even it is NAT, GATE, or any of the examination. So it uses the Spearman-Brown formula. You can check out that formula. So yes, that is being used. It says that half of the scale ka jo bhi reliability you got, replicating it to the other half. Okay. Anything else, Kavita ji?
There are one construct. There are so many standards tool are present. Which tool is very appropriate in our population? How do you choose?
See, like for example, while choosing any of the tool for our population, then we have to seek the criteria that tool has been measuring. if it is matching with the same criteria of ours. Like for example, let me take an example of
Depression tool, there is in case of
okay.
depression measurement.
Okay, so for depression, let's take that BDI, Back's Depression Inventory, BDI 2, the 21 item scale. I hope you
Yeah,
might be aware of that. So there is other battery also, no? That the other scale also, Hamilton's
yeah,
depression scale is also available. So
yes, yes,
which is to be used? It depends on its the criteria it is matching. Like for Bach's depression inventory, it is BDA 2. It's of nature of 21 items only. It's of like the shorter version available, and also it is using the Gutman scaling. So it helps you in identifying that if somebody is like if somebody is pointing out into the extreme level, that means the other upper levels are to be followed as well. So BDI gives us a quick call out for if the person is falling into the depression as per the ICD-10 criteria. So BDI is being used over there, but Hamilton's depression has other certain criteria to be taken care. Similarly, if you are using any of the anxiety scale, like if you are using any anxiety scales to measure, or if you are using the state trait anxiety. So in state trait anxiety would be specifically measuring the state anxiety and the trait anxiety. Whereas any other anxiety, Hamilton's anxiety scale you would be using, that would be measuring the overall anxiety. So again, it depends on the nature of measurement you opt to get on. Like what exactly the criteria you are seeking for. So that's how we choose for the measurement. Farah, have you called sir, like whether he would be taking up? You asked me to cover the class a little earlier so that sir could come in.
Yes, ma'am. He's not responding. Sir, are you there? Sir is. Let me
I
see.
can see his camera. I guess it's put
Yeah,
on.
it's not, but I think he's away from the.
Sir, are you there? Actually, it's streaming on YouTube too, no?
Yeah.
So shall
Okay.
I stop the streaming
Ma'am,
for a
you can,
while?
well, you
ma'am,
can come. You can
ma'am,
continue, ma'am. It's okay. We will
Ha,
take.
Kavita ji.
Even,
Kavita
ma'am,
ji, tell me.
how how we customize the standards tool in our locality? Is it
Please come again. I couldn't get you.
মানে when we use standards tool, then there are some people that that tool must be customized. What is the meaning of customize the standards tool? I cannot understand it. Customized in our language. That's
Are you talking about the translation of tools?
uh, some people say that standards tool must be customized according to your locality. It is need, but modification, some modification is needed. Is it possible, ma'am?
Oh, like you are asking for like if you are using certain tools for a different population in that way. The
Yes,
same
ma'am.
tool to you. Oh,
Yes,
so it usually happens. Yes, we usually do so. Sometimes adaptations are being used. Like for example, if I would say, let me take the again example of TAT only. So the TAT is being constructed by the Henry Murray, and in our Indian adaptation, it's been by what's the name? Uh,
Pramila, I think some Pramila
Sorry?
Patak or something like that.
Oh,
Pramila, I
Pramila
think.
Pathak. No, Usha, Uma Chaudhary or some name is given for that. So it is actually an adaptation. So if you go by the TAT, I am so sorry for if I am recalling the name incorrect, because I am right now I'm not able to recall the name of the author. But what the Indian adaptation does, so Indian adaptation has like in if you remember the TAT cards, I hope you both of you are able to recall the TAT cards if you are able to do so. So the first card is about one of the boy with a blonde hair sitting in front of a violin. Isn't it the first card is about?
Yes,
If you are
sir.
able to recall. But if you went through the Indian notation, the violin is replaced by the veena. Okay, because for us, violin is not so common, but veena could be. So that's how the adaptation, but that again is the process of the whole, the standardization process is followed, where we actually develop the reliability, we test for the reliability, we test for the validity, we actually test for the application part, we actually construct the cultural based norms too, because that particular tool is now to be used in with the Indian population. So yes, we exactly do that. That adaptation part we do. So sometimes we also one of my friend is actually doing it. She is translating. That one scale is I am not able again I am not able to recall the name of the author. The tool is on the flexibility, the flexibility style, and she is actually translating it with for the Indian population. So even in the part of translation, you cannot translate it exactly the Google translation does so. Like even if you are translating into any of the regional language, like she is translating it into the Hindi. So again, you can't just copy paste the Google translation, because if you have ever checked out the Google translation of any of the other language, it like destroys the meaning. It will bring out a different meaning. So again, that too also, like what kind of words to be chosen. Like not every time the same word can be used with every sort of population. Like for example, if I am asking about the sex education, let me take a good example of sex education. If I am constructing a tool for a child, like who is below 10 years, the sex education terms would be used differently. Whereas if I am constructing the same tool for the children above 18 years, would be different, because both of them have their different level of maturity, different level of understanding. Don't you think so? Like I can't read both of them on the same platter, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the henceforth, yes, it, and sometimes you might come across that there are people who are utilizing certain items of the test. Have you ever seen this? Like if a 60 item scale is there,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
one of the factor I am trying to measure, so I am taking out those factor items for my study. Yes,
Yes,
it happens.
yes, yes.
There are several studies you can come across. So you need to put forth that how these items are exactly meeting up the criteria you are seeking for. The literature review, the thorough literature review you have to facilitate to support your point. But you can do so. People do so. Like there are various researches you can easily identify they are doing it. Anything else? Well, let me give it a call to sir then, because I have another meeting at 9:15, and I have.
Yes, ma'am, it's okay, ma'am. Ma'am, you can leave because we have another class. Ma'am, you first complete your normative approach in the next
Oh,
class and
sir is
sir
here.
is here. Yeah, because we have another class. Sir,
Sir, you wanted to take that part?
Not today. I will take another. After you have finished, then I will take.
Sir, I am done with that already. We were actually waiting for you.
Oh, I am taking my dinner.
Okay, sir. You can continue with that then. Maybe we can have it in the other class, Farah, if it is fine.
yes, ma'am, in the next class, ma'am, you have completed everything about normative, ma'am.
Yes,
Everything. Okay.
it's done. Yeah, yeah. So we would
Okay.
be covering this. The third part would be, I guess, not more than 5 to 10 minutes it would take, and
Yes,
we'll be